Last time Al Gore went to the Capitol, it was for George W. Bush's first inauguration. One of his last round trips to Washington saw him second searched at the airport, coming and going, presumably because some screener didn't know the difference between Al Gore and Al-Qaeda. We're looking for Al somebody. But in our third story on the countdown, either of those experiences might have been a little bit more enjoyable than his interaction with Senator James Inhofe of Oklahoma today, as Mr. Gore returned to Capitol Hill to testify to both houses of Congress about global warming. Gore praised for his work by an overwhelming number of reputable scientists around the world, getting a warm welcome from his old Senate colleagues to talk about the line between energy use and climate change, but not from the ranking Republican, former head of the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee, Mr. Inhofe, whom, with Ahmadinejadian logic, considers global warming a hoax. Inhofe insisting on yes or no answers to rather complicated questions.
And we pay more for it because it's still relatively uncommon.
Senator Gore,
and if I could just
well, you can't.
With
if you can allow, you've asked the senator an important question. He's answering it. Give him a minute or so.
Stop the clock during this time.
No, I'm not going to stop the clock. He has a minute to answer. How can you ask a question and not give a man a minute to answer? Please.
A lot of communities actually have laws preventing the installation of solar photovoltaic.
So I assume the answer is no. Let's go to the next question. They're criticizing you for some of your being too alarmist and hurting your own cause. Now, I'll ask you to respond in writing for that one because that would be a very long response, I'm afraid. Now, it seems that everybody on global warming and the media joined the chorus last summer.
Senator Inhofe, we'll freeze the time for a minute.
Oh, yes.
I'm just trying to make...
Take your time. We're freezing the time.
We're freezing the time. Just for a minute. I want to talk to you a minute, please. Would you agree to let the Vice President answer your questions? And then if you want an extra few minutes at the end, I'm happy to give it to you. But we're not going to get anywhere.
Why don't we do this?
Why don't we
do this? At the end, you can have as much time as you want to answer all
the questions.
No, that isn't
the rule of you're not making the rules. You used to when you did this. You don't do this anymore. Elections have consequences.
After the chair, Senator Boxer, filled in the blank in ex-chairman Inhofe's memory all of November 2006, apparently, Mr. Gore eventually did get some words in edgewise, but it turns out there's even more than meets the eye to the link between Inhofe and the smear campaign against Gore. Joining us now, Howard Fineman, Newsweek columnist, senior Washington correspondent, of course, MSNBC political analyst. Howard, good evening.
Hi, Keith. That was great theater up there today.
Yeah, and maybe something else, too. The hearing was not, and the theater was not even over, when one of Senator Inhofe's aides, a man named Mr. Marano, put out an internet news release accusing Vice President Gore of refusing to take an oath to cut his own energy use. This man, Marano, had been a producer for Rush Limbaugh's TV show. There is a right-wing campaign against Gore, particularly on this issue, but how extensive is it, and why is it so venomous?
Well, it is extensive, and the guy you were talking about was buzzing around the press table I was sitting at, handing out press releases before, during, and after the Vice President's appearance. I think there's a few things going on here. For one, Al Gore is winning this argument, scientifically and politically. And that has enormous implications for American business, both positive and negative. The fossil fuel-based industries are scared out of their wits by the fact that Al Gore has put them on the defensive. So money's involved. Politics is involved because the Republicans have found themselves, for the most part now, in this red-blue divide, standing against the kind of environmental concerns Gore's talking about. That's a risky position, but they're pressing ahead with it. And I think on a personal level, they find Gore irritating because he's been embraced by Hollywood, because he's embraced by the media, and because he's sort of a political bankwoes ghost, Keith. I mean, after all, there are a lot of Democrats who think he should have been the president, and George Bush is now at a 30% approval rating, and Al Gore is at a 70% approval rating. So for all those reasons, he just presses every possible button that the conservative movement has.
What is Inhofe's story? He claims this is a plot by big business to make tens of billions of dollars, but does he explain the oil companies who are funding some of the garbage science that says, oh no, everything's great, don't anybody panic, that sweat on your brow in the middle of February has nothing to do with global warming?
And enjoy the heat.
Yeah.
Well, I think the way I see it is that, being from where he is and coming from where he's comes from, he's kind of the fossil fuel industry guy here. And whether you're in the coal industry or the oil business or parts of the electricity generation business that will find it expensive to retrofit those coal-fired power plants. It's an expensive proposition. And it is a serious philosophical matter because Al Gore is talking about something very fundamental and sweeping that will require more government involvement. And that is a philosophical matter that people like Inhofe object to, both for philosophical and financial reasons. So this is a real, serious, big-time argument. I must say that if Inhofe is the best arguer that they can come up with for their side, Al Gore's in even better shape politically than he even realizes.
Yeah, we have a great chance of saving the planet then. Mr. Inhofe is putting the fossil back in fossil fuels. But about the political theater here and the impact, leaving the House or the Senate, they grilled Gore again about a presidential run. Again, he gave that "I'm not planning to" answer, the crack in the keyhole answer. Will what happened today impact his decision on that? And if so, how might it do so?
Well, he did seem to be enjoying himself there. This was his first time back up on the Hill, and I've known him forever. I've covered some of his early environmental hearings going back when I was a local reporter in Kentucky. He liked being back, I think, but he doesn't like it that much to want to put himself through it. I was talking to Ted Kennedy afterwards, and Kennedy, who knows something about this, said, I don't think Al Gore wants to put himself through the process. He likes the added sort of sex appeal that there is in being a potential candidate. I think he's enjoying what he's doing. He's making tons of money. He's the Goracle. He's the guy that everybody's listening to. He's got his answers down pat on all this thing. He goes around being a sage. He doesn't have to run for anything. He's the unofficial president of the environment now, and I think that's what he always wanted.
Howard Fineman, Chief Washington Correspondent at Newsweek. As always, sir, our great pleasure.
Thanks, Keith.
Thank you.